Everything you have been doing to protect your health is making you weaker. Not the obvious things, the careful things, the routines built around avoiding discomfort, the decisions that felt responsible. Those are the ones doing the damage. And the part that will unsettle you is that your body already knows this. It has been trying to tell you for years. You just interpreted the signal backwards. You started protecting yourself at some point. Maybe after an injury, maybe just after life got busier and the margin for recovery got smaller. You stopped pushing as hard. You managed your energy. You kept stress low where you could. You chose rest over strain because rest felt like the intelligent choice. And on the surface, it worked. You felt fine. Nothing broke. The system held. But fine is not the same as strong, and holding is not the same as building. The body you have been protecting has been quietly losing the capacity it had when you were putting it under pressure. Not because something went wrong, because nothing went wrong, because the signal that tells your body to maintain its strength is the signal you stopped sending. Your comfort has been managing you out of the thing you thought you were protecting. The body does not maintain strength it is not using. It does not hold bone density for bones that carry no load. It does not preserve cardiovascular capacity for a system that never gets pushed. The mechanism that builds physical resilience is stress. Controlled, specific, repeated stress. Without it, the body reads the situation as one that no longer requires the resources it costs to stay strong, and it begins to withdraw them. Call this the stress adaptation principle. The body gets stronger not by being protected from load, but by being exposed to load and then given time to recover from it. A bone under controlled mechanical pressure increases its density at exactly the point where the pressure was applied. A muscle fiber exposed to resistance beyond its current capacity tears at the microscopic level and repairs itself thicker. The heart pushed to its upper range during exercise returns to rest with a stronger chamber wall and a lower resting rate. Remove the stress and the adaptation stops. Remove it long enough and the adaptations already made begin to reverse. This is not a theory. It is how the body allocates its maintenance budget. The parts that are used get maintained. The parts that are not get quietly defunded. The difference between stress that builds and stress that breaks is not the intensity, it is the recovery. Applied pressure followed by recovery produces a stronger structure than either condition alone. The load creates the demand. The recovery is when the body answers it. In the early 1970s, a NASA-funded researcher named Harold Sandler began studying bone density in astronauts who had spent extended time in space. The findings were consistent and disturbing. Astronauts who returned from orbit had lost significant bone mass in their lower limbs. Some lost more than 1% per month in the spine and hip. The crew of Skylab 4, who spent 84 days in space in 1973 and 1974, showed bone loss in the calcaneus, the heel bone, of up to 7% over the mission. They were not ill. They were not injured. They were some of the most physically monitored humans on the planet. The issue was purely mechanical. In the absence of gravity, the skeleton carried no load. The bones received no signal that density was required, and so the body, running its normal maintenance logic, stopped maintaining it. The crew could not walk normally when they returned. It took weeks to rebuild the capacity that had been quietly withdrawn during months of weightlessness. Nobody designed the system to fail. The system worked exactly as it was designed to work. It just produced the wrong outcome when the conditions changed, in a way nobody had fully anticipated. The load was the thing that was keeping them strong, and the thing that removed the load felt like the ultimate protection. The deeper problem is not that people avoid stress. It is that the body gives no signal when the withdrawal is happening. You do not feel bone density leaving. You do not feel your cardiovascular ceiling drop by 3% over a year of reduced effort. You feel fine. The loss is invisible until the moment it is tested, which is usually the moment when something needs to work, and it does not. This is the same structure that produces sudden, surprising collapses in systems that appeared healthy. Not a slow, visible decline, but a silent withdrawal of capacity, followed by an event that the reduced capacity cannot handle. A 60-year-old who has been managing their exertion for a decade does not discover the gap slowly. They discover it when they need to move fast and cannot, or when a medical reading shows a number that was not expected. A Russian sports physiologist named Nikolai Ozolin documented a related pattern in elite athletes during the Soviet era. Athletes who trained intensely but never included structured recovery phases would plateau and then decline. Athletes who included deliberate periods of reduced load, followed by progressive overload, continued to improve beyond what continuous training produced. The stress was not the problem. The absence of recovery was. And removing the stress entirely produced a third outcome worse than either. You are avoiding the stress that would make you harder to break. Not the chaotic stress, the kind that arrives without warning and without recovery time, but the specific, chosen, repeated kind that your body knows exactly how to use. You stopped lifting what feels heavy. You stopped running until it becomes uncomfortable. You stopped doing the thing that used to leave you tired in a way that felt like it was building something. And you replaced it with movement that stays inside the comfortable range. Walks that never accelerate. Workouts that never reach the point where the body has to decide whether to adapt. You call it consistency. Your body calls it a signal that nothing is required. You are also ignoring the thing the body is always measuring, which is whether the current level of capacity is being tested. When the answer is never, the maintenance cost of that capacity starts to look like waste. That is not a moral judgment. It is just the calculation the body runs automatically when load disappears. The principle is this: the body requires a reason to stay capable. You have to supply the reason deliberately because comfort will never supply it for you. In practice, this means choosing, regularly, to place a load on the system that is slightly beyond what feels easy. Not beyond recovery. Not beyond what produces chronic exhaustion or injury. Just beyond the edge of comfortable. The adaptation happens in the space between the demand and the recovery. Both are required. Neither alone does the work. What you give up is the feeling that rest and protection are the same as health. They are related, but they are not the same. A rested body that never faces demand is not a healthy body. It is a body that has been managed into a lower level of capability so gradually that the change was never visible as it was happening. What you get in return is a body that actually maintains what you are asking it to maintain. Not forever. Not against every possible outcome. But capable of meeting demands it has been trained to meet, because it has been trained to meet them. You have been treating comfort as an investment in health. Some of it is. Recovery is real. Sleep matters. But the absence of stress extended over years is not rest, it is withdrawal. And the body you will need in 15 years is being built or not built right now by the loads you are choosing or refusing to place on it today. Most people do not find this out until the capacity is already gone. The question is not whether the body will eventually be tested. It will. The question is whether you have been giving it a reason to stay ready. Next video. The same logic that governs how the body responds to physical stress also governs how human systems respond to volatility. Organizations and institutions that are never exposed to manageable shocks accumulate a hidden fragility that makes the first real shock catastrophic. The engineering principle behind why some structures survive extreme events and others collapse under loads they should have been able to handle will change how you think about building anything meant to last. Fragility is not the absence of strength. It is what happens when strength is never tested.